this moment here is as important as 10 years ago or when podcasts started around 10, 12 years ago. This is a very important moment and we can get in on it.
But you need to be smart enough to know how to use that tool, and you can't assume that it can replace you. If you think it can replace you, then you are no longer relevant. You need to go back to the drawing board.
What happens when a couple of guys who have spent the last 20 years working on their writing craft finally decide to get serious about publishing, only to face a crumbling industry, AI written books, and a deluge of amateur self-publishing? Well, let's find out. On this episode, we discuss the Hollywood writer's strike, the pros and cons of AI, and our plan to make it as writers. This is Hacking It with Dan Allen and Rob C.
What I'm trying to do is, or what we are both, I think, trying to do is create a sort of a redundant system, for lack of a better definition, where we use this platform. We're already setting a kind of an exciting, kind of a little bit of an adventure, really. A couple of guys that I followed started in about 2017, started with nothing, and they started covering paranormal story, not paranormal, but really just legends. They're called astonishing legends, and they started with nothing other than the two guys were pretty well, I would say adept at sound editing, and they went to college together and they met up many years later. I think they've been friends, kind of like us. And they started with nothing and literally nothing. Now they're, the guy, both of them are raking in a lot of money,
Yeah.
Enough to live off of it. That's not my ambition here with any of this, but really you can never get anything unless you start out somewhere.
You can't talk about, starting a writing career right now without talking about AI. And
the strike,
and it's going to force writers to be on top of their game. This is really going to separate the wheat from the chaff, because if you're just if you haven't mastered the writing skill, at least on a baseline level, like ChatGPT is already ahead of you. But if you have mastered it, then you're going to realize what an advantage you have over AI. Because messing around with it.
No, this is an article I read about. I'm gonna have to learn not to interrupt you. But an article I read is ChatGPT. Teachers are complaining about ChatGPT idiot students sending really bad papers that don't even show that they know how to use a tool.
Yeah.
And so, please keep going. I like the idea of that you're hanging on to the zeitgeist moment.
Yeah, it's either you can have, I'm seeing people's reactions. It's either the worst timing or the best timing. Like somebody with an open mind, with a big imagination,
exactly,
who is confident in their skills. This is an exciting moment because now you have a personal assistant, that'll whatever you tell it to do, but you need to be smart enough to know how to use that tool. And you can't assume that it can replace you. If you think it can replace you, then you are no longer relevant, and you need to go back to the drawing board.
Even for first words of this book. Yeah, this is what you said. That's being recorded because these are great introductory. So we've got two things, and I'm glad that you're on to this huge kind of mind-bending thing that we're trying to do, because it is a mind bender, because it's a mind-bending moment in history even. So it's perfect that even though we started out as let's write a book on writing, and you saw that a lot of my, I don't know, I wouldn't call it hesitation, but my idea of it was like the whole thing is really just a conceit, and it's really based on hacking it so that we could get a book out there so that we can, have something to sell. But let's just go one step above that, I thought, and let's just call, the elephant in the room what it is. What kind of advice would I be giving anyone to start writing when the game has changed? Let's just focus it in on ourselves as the novices, and I think that's a great way to look at ourselves. And I like looking at myself that way, because it means that we can really explore together and understand how this technology is we're gonna do the whole thing. We have challenges for ourselves. The writer's strike right now in Hollywood is very important. It's important because a lot is at stake. There's a little bit of hypocrisy from some of the big kahunas, like the big artists, or not artists, the big actors and all that, who already get a lot of money. No, this is really more about the little people, the writers that were trying to make it, the actors that were trying to make it in little commercials and little things and little parts, and the working writers are the ones that have always been suffering the most through the advent of AI. We want to get in this moment for many reasons: sociological, artistic, just existential. It's an existential moment. It's kind of like we've been in a bunker and we climb out of the bunker and like, yeah, we finally can like do this. And all of a sudden we realize that the landscape's completely changed, which is good and bad, just like the way you explained. And in that, it becomes an equalizer. Now, all the knowledge that people have accumulated, the professionals, all their knowledge, all their experience, all their contacts have been wiped out. Just like when your employer puts in a new software, and you're like, oh, you develop so much acumen with one set of tools.
I've got the script that my dad wrote. He wrote it, my gosh, 20 years ago. It's a script about Wild Bill Hickok, and he self-published it in book form, and so he's got a nice cover, he's got nice photos throughout, but it's a script. What can you do with the script right now except turn it into movies? So I said, okay, how can I use ChatGPT to turn this into a novel so that my dad has a book that he can sell when he's doing his gunfights, because people want to buy stuff.
What your dad is doing is the new future. Okay, so everybody's going to be a lot of what writing is going to become for a while, at least until everything's sorted out, is going to be in these niches. Okay, this is my vision. This is my prediction. And so what your dad is, in a weird way, ahead of the time. We are right there with him. Part of it is getting into the perspective of artists like your dad. So what I'm trying to do is not to focus in on writing as the sole. The new thing is creativity. So for what we're doing, for instance, with the writing book, is we're producers, really. We're very smart, savvy, technically inclined. As far as writing, we know what good writing sounds like. We know how to guide this. We're sort of like director producers of this work. And the ChatGPT is our pack mule, right? If we can get and by the way, there's a better ChatGPT, a better one. That's a much scarier one, much better. It's called Barry something something. It's not the one that everybody's using. It's another one. That one's really scary because it's really good. Okay, it's really good at writing. Piece of crap. And so we want to use something like it to create this book. So,
think about it, people in that situation, like my dad. And my dad he's not looking to get into the writing game, but let's say you got somebody like my dad in his 60s, wrote some manuscripts years ago. These were not typing into computers and saving their manuscripts. They've got manuscripts laying around. So one of the things that I can do is show how you take a physical manuscript that's not digitalized and make it digital so that you can put it into ChatGPT. Once you plug it in, there are some things you got to do. Like when I scanned it, if you're converting like a script, a script into a novel form, you have to give it some very specific commands because it won't do it exactly the way it's supposed to be. And then once it's in there, what we can do is we can give some examples of what bad AI writing looks like and how you fix it.
Well, the best thing is to get this thing to do the bulk of the work, and then the person becomes kind of an editor of it and all that. But just remember that that's not the main part. It's kind of like a hook. Okay, so we have like 3 hooks. Yes, we're taking this book seriously. We're going to try to write this book seriously. But it's also, the elephant in the room is that we are at an existential crux of like what creativity means now. Okay, the main veins of the show are our own personal creative adventure or misadventure, starting out in the evening, so to speak, and then B, an entertaining journalistic kind of indie dive into the industry. So we're sort of, the way we talk, you and I are really curious about all aspects of creative industry. That's Hollywood, that's publishing, that's where the new, the old fiefdoms of New York and LA and maybe Seattle, but I think it's more New York in terms of publishing. Those are really disappearing, Dan. They're being reformed. Really, what's interesting in the main vein, the A, and I'll stop and let you, is that we're sharing our experience, okay, in an edited way, in a way that's fun. But we're doing that because we're actually going to be trying this out. Like you're going to try your dad's thing. We're going to actually try it out if he wants to. We're going to try your brother's stuff, your music. We're going to try all this stuff. We're going to try everything, and then we're going to try ourselves, and we're going to get other people to participate in by just asking them to, or quoting them or whatever it is. Does that square? Those three main veins. Those three main veins don't mean 3 programs. It means that that's the tenor of the show for, let's say, we could do 3 seasons. Even teachers can benefit from this because they're trying to be creative too in the way they want to teach and how they incorporate this. So it's got a good appeal. We're producing a book. It's kind of like here's what it sounds. It's a very meta thing because it's almost like if we were disingenuous, we would say, hey, we put a book and we did it through AI, guys. Don't tell anybody. Why not? We're going to be open about it. We're going to use this tool. We're going to be open. We ourselves are trying it, and we're showing you how it can be done, or how we fail, how we succeed. We're learning the rules because everybody's learning the rules, but we happen to have a little bit of an edge because we have done a ton of reading and writing in our lives. So we know what things can look like and what things can be produced, especially you do. Whoever the listener is joining in because maybe they can. A lot of people will identify with this, Many even established people, especially people that are in their 50s and 60s or 50s that are professionals, are being like, oh shoot, now I don't know anything. How do I do this? It's like we both converged on this thing at the right time. We think we're late to the game, but we're going to find out that probably, hopefully, that's a question we need to ask ourselves in the episode or whatever. Are we really late into this game? I mean, it's a genuine concern that we have, right? Is this the right time to be doing this? And look, we just expect, we thought we knew the old rules, which was, try to get an agent, try to do this, try to get a manuscript going, and then somehow that, that old joke between us about, finally dropping that 500 or 1,000 page manuscript on some old guy's desk, because somehow the world is expecting us. He's been waiting for us the whole time. And it's such a teenage fantasy, right? That every creative person has. Everything like, once I do it, it will come,
Yeah.
But it's really the opposite. You have to kind of get up and start running. There's no room for walking around and meandering. It's like you got your wares, and now let's start to sell this stuff.
Don't miss the next episode of Hacking It, where Rob and I discuss our own personal journeys as writers as we tackle the obstacles and challenges of self-publishing. Until then, keep writing.